I mean, everything about me speaks elderly gentleman.
I was going to tell you one more thing I wanted to do in aromatherapy.
Uh-huh.
So, just take a deep breath in.
What is that?
It's a big old fatty Sharpie.
Are you trying to get me high?
Yeah. Hi, this is Liz Grant. Thank you so much for... No, fuck that. Hi, this is Liz Grant. Ronn Vigh was a fabulous first guest, and he's actually a very talented comedian and a really good friend of mine. He's a booker for local talent in San Francisco at some huge clubs in our city. And I think this is insightful and sweet and funny and super entertaining, and so does my friend and assistant Jessica, and I paid her good money to agree. Clapper. Action. Okay. This is the very first guest. This is Ronn Vigh, everybody. Yay, Jessica's.
Hi. Ooh.
Oh. What happened?
There's hands on me already.
Oh. Well, take a deep breath in, please. Oh yeah, you've got some inflammation here. Permission to touch your pectorals.
Permission granted.
So tell the story about the guy. All the good stuff happened with the camera off, unfortunately, but could you tell the story about the guy?
Yeah, it's just that when I first moved to Las Vegas, I went for a massage, and I don't know if he was just fresh out of massage school or generally very awkward or both. I mean, who knows? Maybe he's like got into massage and didn't realize that he didn't get to massage hot chicks, and all of a sudden guys like me would show up. I have no idea, but he was so awkward about everything. And when I first walked into the room, he goes down this checklist. But it was like he wasn't reading it from a book, but he definitely sounded like he memorized it from a book. And he's just like, and now I might touch the following areas that I need your consent for. And he lists everything, and then he's like, pectorals. And I'm like, sure. And he's like, I probably won't, just in case. And I'm like, okay, this
I
is...
probably won't.
It was such a bad massage.
Oh, God. So he was in his head the whole time? You could tell?
Yeah, it just felt like, this is where I massage. Okay, 2 minutes now in. I go over here. Point A, point B, point C.
Yeah, okay, that's funny, though.
Never hit point D. And I get permission. That was a dick joke.
I totally missed it.
Point D.
Point D. Oh, my goodness. I don't have one, so I forgot. I forgot you were a comedian. How's the pressure?
The pressure's good.
Okay, so don't try this at home, folks. Get to your doctor if you need a massage. Don't do anything that I'm doing.
I like that you said go to the doctor if you need a massage. You know, this is only in San Francisco. I went to a doctor with a list of problems, and he says, have you tried smoking pot?
Oh, God.
And I was like, you're a real doctor, right? You're like not some weird holistic doctor. And that was his answer. He wanted me to start smoking pot.
I had a doctor tell me I needed to have more sex to bring up my lymphocytes.
I mean, that's great. I would just be hanging out to the bar being like, doctor's orders, you know? Take me home.
Save a life today.
I literally might die if you don't bang me. I have a doctor's note. I'd love it if you just walked around a bar with a doctor's note saying, like, I must get laid.
I need you to touch my pectorals. So, we were talking about Vegas, and we were talking about comedy, obviously. Mm-hmm. And some people, I won't say where specifically, because you don't need any more fake friends, but that you're the talent booker for a lot of the large clubs here in the Bay Area.
Yeah, I still book in comedy what we consider the support acts, like the hosts and the features and showcases and things like that. So, yeah, it's a great community. Like, I just had lunch with a bunch of comics, but you always get so many people. Oh my God, through the years, it's like, what's your favorite candy? I'll bring you candy the next time at the comedy club. One time I had someone offer me a hand job.
No.
Yes.
To bring up your lymphocytes?
I'm like, I do not give stage time for hand jobs, but if you touch my pectorals.
Well, that's so. You probably pick up on other people's energy when they're starting to be weird, right? Like,
I pick up on other people's energy like way too much, even not in comedy, and that's been one of the things that I had to train myself, is to not let other people's energy affect my energy, because I kind of like happy-go-lucky, go about my day, say please, thank you, try to have a smile on my face, but the minute something remotely goes wrong, and it can be something as if I hold the door for somebody and they don't say thank you.
yep.
Like that energy, I just soak it up,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm trying not to do that, but it's very easy for me to take on other people's bad energy. I'm from New Jersey. I love nothing more than to be aggressive and cynical.
And you're an Aries.
And I'm an Aries, so I'm very fiery. I'm very loyal,
Okay.
but I'm also very fiery if you get me riled up. I mean, my Italian family in New Jersey, you be in the other room and you hear, "Blah, blah, blah, blah," and it sounds like everybody's yelling bloody murder, and it just turns out they're like, "Hey, can you pass the salt?"
Oh my god.
Like, that's all people, Italians in New Jersey, that's how we communicated, and so that's what I took with me. Then I got to the West Coast, and everyone was super sensitive, so it really took me a long time to, like, figure it out.
Yeah. So how do you not pick up on people's energy?
Well, funny enough, I like to say do yoga, but I hardly practice yoga anymore, but I still teach yoga on the side.
Hypocrite.
And and it's breathing, actually breathing actually helps if you just stop instead of like getting ready to scream at somebody, which is gratifying in the moment, but then you feel like a piece of shit afterwards,
exactly.
right? And I get all in my head about it. I just take a deep breath, and then, it kind of just goes away.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, it sounds silly, but
No,
it
it's
actually
not.
does work.
It seems like everything comes back to that, like as many forms of, spiritual traditions or even like practical, modern day tips. It's all about breathing, and, it's so basic, but we forget about it because that's the first thing that stops
Right.
when we're stressed, is to just...
Oh, exactly. It's so easy when I teach yoga. I literally, every moment, I'm like, inhale, exhale, inhale. People are like, you say that a lot. I'm like, yeah, because you all forget to breathe, because it's the first thing that we let go of when something becomes challenging or unfamiliar. By the way, it'll be fun to replay this back,
Yeah.
because I've got the performer in me is like, eyes open, you're on camera, razzle dazzle them. And then I've got the massage, and you can tell when I'm getting like comfortable and you're hitting a spot because my eyes close. And then I'm like, so then I don't know what to do. So I'm just gonna.
You don't have to perform. Well, that was my thinking, was actually, to have conversations like what we were talking about, deeper, less superficial. I do think all of it's, interesting and worth watching, but I just think comics, we are sensitive to people and energies and social interactions and have a million thoughts, and so I think that part's fascinating, where like, how do you relax, Ron? So is there anything else that you...
Okay, I'm usually most comfortable in the situations that people are the most uncomfortable. Like, I love airplanes. I love flying. I like being on an airplane. That doesn't stress me out. I love being in front of large audiences. That's comforting to me.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make me nervous at all. That public speaking.
Mm-hmm.
There's yoga. I love casinos. Nothing. I just like being around them. I don't even have to spend money in them half the time.
Wow.
There's just something about the environment. Those are like my little comforts, because I'm not, I don't really have any other sources like of escapism in terms of like, I really don't drink, and I've never took up like drugs. I don't smoke. I don't like smoking. I've never done pot despite being doctor's orders. So I don't know. So it's those items, and then of course I love animals, and I used to volunteer pre-pandemic at the animal shelter all the time. And now just these like wayward cats find me, and I keep adding cats to my collection. Now I have 3 cats.
I do too. I say 2.5 because one's on the porch, but she sleeps indoors during the day. But so the cats, are they relaxing too? Jasper for sure.
All they do is relax. I love when they're like, look so exhausted. I'm like, what did you do?
Yeah.
You slept in that room and then you slept in that room. And so we have the third cat, and I think we finally settled on her name, which is Frida, which is also a Golden Girls reference. All my cats are named from the Golden Girls in one way or another. Just in case you were wondering out there, is he gay? Yeah.
Who is Frida?
So Frida is named after Mrs. Frida Claxton. She's in season 2 for one episode. And she is the old lady that hates the oak tree. And the Golden Girls are trying to do a petition to save the old oak tree. But the oak tree's on her property, and she's all for cutting it down. And in court, she riles up Rose, and Rose tells her if she doesn't like it to drop dead. And then Rose turns her back to her, and she did just that. She dropped dead.
Oh my God.
So then the whole episode is about how Rose killed her. And so we named her, I wanted to name her Mrs. Claxton, but that was too much, so we named her first name, Frida.
Okay. So how are they all getting along?
Great! They actually like travel in little packs now together, and they sleep together, and it was a really easy transition.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Must be meant to be a sort of.
Well, we tried to, be good pet owners and keep them separated in the beginning and do all the steps as recommended, and it worked out for the most part.
Wow.
She eats up a storm, though.
It gets expensive when you try to buy the right food.
Holy shit, it gets expensive. I know that. And then my cats eat better than me. I'm out putting packages of ahi tuna for them. And then I'm eating like a lean cuisine.
Sad.
I know. They're all sitting there. I'm like lighting candles, creating ambiance. They got a beautiful meal. And I'm just,
So, we were talking about, you were talking about creativity and how the emails and everything else kind of weigh you down, and I totally get that. And what, if you had your, ideal creative process, what would you be doing instead?
Well, for me, it seems like after all these years of doing comedy, I write the most on stage. So I would love like 2 sets a night, if not more, to just hammer in those jokes. I get ideas, and I get setups, and I get some punchlines, but I feel like a lot of it just comes out through my improvisation. Mm-hmm. And so I'm most creative when I'm around comedy and when I'm in comedy and doing comedy. I'm no longer that much of like a sit down with a notebook kind of guy.
Well, I'm not sure you ever were, because like when we'd be at Harvey's, you'd be pulling up stuff like 10 minutes before you were supposed to go on from your notebook, and you had you and I are the same way, just massive amounts of notes. And
oh my God, papers all over the place. I don't know. Everybody's like, oh my God, that's such a mess. I'm like, it's organized to me.
Yeah. Do you have ADD?
Very interesting question. And I bet you... Okay, so I recently asked the doctor if I can talk to somebody about possibly having adult ADHD that's gone undiagnosed. Because I read up a lot on it, and I've been on this very specific medication that, kind of combats depression, anxiety, and migraines. And then I started reading all this information about migraines and how undiagnosed people with ADHD are more likely to get them, and men are more likely if that's the situation, and the severity of them. And I was like, we need to talk about this. So with Kaiser, you have to go through, they have to recommend you to this person and that person, whatever, and he did that. But then you can't make the appointment without them calling you or whatever. And so they called me and said, okay, this is blah, 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 blah. Call us back to make the appointment. And now we've been going on 4 months of me trying to schedule one appointment. And I'm like, this is not a good process for someone with possibly ADHD.
Oh my God.
So the fact is that it's been 4 months now and I still don't have my appointment. So I think the answer is yes, I have ADD because I keep forgetting to follow through.
Yeah, it's tough because, from my own process, it's just there's so much notebook, and then I'll go back later and try to, but yeah, I'm the same way. Like, I write on stage. I focus more in high pressure situations.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like when there's a bigger crowd, I do better. I can feel myself getting more centered than if there are 3 people in the audience.
Well, now, I've had to train myself in a smaller amount of people in the audience because it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be horrible if they're like good participants and good audience members that are there. And that's where I got good at crowd work, because just trying to go through 40 minutes of material for 3 people in an audience is really tough.
Yeah.
But starting to talk to them like human beings and then finding the funny there, that's like exciting to me.
Well, and people go crazy for that because it's unique to them. It's only happening once.
Right.
It totally unifies them, and it's very special. And people feel very special. And you do it in a way. After watching you, Danville, you're trying to bring people together. You're not trying to make anyone feel ostracized or
right.
Which is like, to me, that's why people don't want to sit in the front row. Is because they're terrified.
And I like making. How do I say it? Like, I may be making fun of them a little bit, but not in a mean-spirited way. And I don't want anybody to leave feeling bad. And if I ever get the sense that they're not, like, that into it, or they are starting to feel like I will back off.
Yeah.
Or I'll even do that thing where, like, give them a round of applause, what a great sport, or whatever, thank you so much, or whatever. And then I move it along, you know? Because I do poke fun, and I'm very quick, but I don't want anybody to ever feel, bad about themselves. I'm very sensitive myself, like most artists. Yeah. Oh my God! I just called comedians artists. That's not happens often.
But I appreciate that sensitivity, because you can walk a line, and it's intuitive, and it's from experience too. But I think it also, like, you can tell when people have a good heart versus when someone's trying to do a power trip thing.
Oh yeah.
The worst for me is when comics are doing it to get a canned reaction so they can slam down with their I remember when I worked at a comedy club, I was a waitress, and then I'd see the headliner come in and start talking to people on the Wednesday, and then all through the week we all knew their exact act and what they were even going to say, to which responses they had. And I've never seen you do that. I've never seen you use the same joke after a certain response. It's just, you have so much material that you can adapt, and it's sort of like wizardry. You can pull stuff out of the air.
Yeah, it's comes with time, and I think for me, I had a hard time memorizing my jokes in the beginning.
Oh God.
And so that I started incorporating a lot of the, like, when I needed to save myself because I couldn't remember, or I was starting to panic on the inside, I would, like, turn to the crowd. And it just develops over time. Like, nothing happens overnight in comedy. It's just like yoga as a yoga teacher. Oh, I took 2 classes and I still couldn't touch my toes. Or I took 2 classes and I couldn't do that. I'm like, well, it takes time. We live in a world, even after the pandemic, where we're just right away, we're going back to rush, go, go, go. And so people do things, and they, like I tell them in yoga, I'm like, try not to catch your, like, yoga up to your life. Let's try to catch life up to yoga, your yoga. And it's the same thing with comedy, and you got to keep your eyes open when you're in a room and see who's in front of you and what the environment is around. And I love poking fun of that too, because that's what we are. We see things in a very unique way.
Yeah.
And I, like you too, I have a lot of thoughts flooding my brain a lot of times, and that's why it doesn't even work to, like, think and write, because I've already forgotten about 10 of those thoughts. So I record all my sets, and I write a lot on stage, and then I can at least go back and be like, hey, that.
Have you been going back and looking at it?
Oh yeah, I always do.
Oh, that's good. That's one thing for me. Actually, Jessica's been helping me with, is we've been indexing everything. So it's like stuff that I even forgot happened, or I just, something came out of my mouth and I don't even remember saying it, but the crowd tore up. So we're trying to find this footage, and then, like, she's rating it, ABC. There's some couple of F's, but mostly it was the audience's fault. Blame the audience. But it's just helpful to know that, oh yeah, I've got jokes about this and that and the other thing, and I'll forget them. But yeah, it's too bad about the letting the thoughts go by without catching the thought. But I guess everyone has to do their process. And for you, if it's on stage and you're watching it, I mean, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's the only way I was able to run on a treadmill. I used to listen to my sets while, like, doing, like, cardio.
Wow. Do you make notes while you're...
Not so much then. Occasionally, if something really hits me, but I'll just, like, listen back to it. It's really... I listen to myself, or if I can find a treadmill with the TV that has the Golden Girls, it's the only way I can get through cardio. I hate cardio so much. Too. So this is the funny thing, there's a certain amount of, like, ab exercises and core exercises, stuff that I love to do, but pretty much I get massive headaches 48 hours after I work out all the time.
Really?
If I do anything involving weights or anything,
do you grind your teeth at night?
Not that I know of. No dentist has ever told me.
You might clench. Like, some people just clench. Let me see how you're...
Oh, my occipital, like, area is always a hot mess.
Yeah.
Usually.
Well, usually when I used to do massage legally, I could put my hand on the back of someone's occipital ridge and I go, oh my God, you grind your teeth. And they're like, yeah, I do. Just because you can feel it's just a mess. It gets around the eyes and everything else, all that tension.
Oh, yeah, and that's where I get all my... I mean, I've been a lifelong migraine sufferer, so I always get, like, these terrible migraines. I remember one time I had a call out of a show, and I don't cancel for anything, but I was sitting in front of the toilet. I was so sick and sensitive to the light and everything. And Molly, who was the booker of this particular show, was like, I didn't even recognize the voice. You sounded so horrible.
Oh, that's awful. Do you use Imitrex or?
Yes, but the Imitrex is like a sumatriptan, right? And Imitrex is sumatriptan. Because I use the generic. You think I'm out here using brand name, Liz?
You left brand name to me.
But that works better now that I've been on this other medication. But before I was on this, like, medication, it didn't work as well. And a lot of people say it only worked about 1/4 of the time.
Oh, jeez.
But when I've had to use it in recent times, it has always worked. I always have 1 or 2 on me, and I do right now. But when I get my really bad migraines also, I don't usually see an aura, at least on the way in. There's been a few times where I've seen shimmering gold light and then the migraines disappeared shortly after.
That's God.
Is that God?
How weird.
So I've always had a very interesting relationship with those, like, migraines, because I'm out and I get really, really sick.
Oh, no.
It's always been like that.
Huh. Is it food related too?
Not that I know of, although I would love to do a food allergy test at, like, some point.
Oh, I did one and I got so depressed afterward, but
really?
It helped me because I thought I had lupus or something.
Oh my gosh.
I was so sick. And it was everything I was eating I was allergic to.
Oh my God.
So then they give you the page of things you can eat.
Oh, I don't want that. Yeah, that's no fun.
Yeah, I know. But anyway, it really helped me to know. Yeah, you got some stuff going on, yeah.
Oh yeah, always. I'm always a hot mess. I'm always such a workout session for the massage therapist.
I know. Do you take magnesium?
No.
Well.
What is magnesium usually found in?
I think green leafy stuff and nuts and stuff like that, but
I eat lots of nuts.
Most people are deficient, according to my opinion, which is for entertainment purposes. I'm so worried about getting sued and I've got no assets. But future earnings are definitely a thing. So, no, but most people are magnesium deficient. In fact, I was thinking, if I ever did massage again, I would insist that people would be on magnesium because it's so much work to try to get all this to...
Right.
And then it'll just snap right back, But, yeah, I don't know, it's really helped me. I haven't been to the chiropractor in 4 years.
Huh.
I started taking magnesium, so...
I could definitely probably use a chiropractor visit, but that's good. I'll, go to Walgreens or something and pick up some magnesium.
Yeah, check and see the kind, but, you might want to start off slowly because sometimes you can pee out your butt.
Okay, well...
It's controlled.
Okay.
From what I've heard. A friend of mine who took it for entertainment purposes only, said that I bought her this stuff called Calm, or I can't remember what it was. Have you seen that stuff called Calm?
No.
It's a drink, but she also had magnesium in her and she can take it double if you have it in your multivitamin. And so she said, yeah, it doesn't give you diarrhea, it just loosens things up. So that's delicious.
Well, you know, when I had a colonoscopy...
Are you of that... I don't think you're in the club yet. I don't think you've gotten your AARP card yet.
You know what? I've actually gotten... I'm not supposed to be old enough for an AARP card, but I've gotten mailers for sure for them, and it angers me every time.
Because I know you like coupons?
Oh my God, I love coupons.
It's because of your Vegas visits. It's because of because you hang out in...
I mean, everything about me speaks elderly gentleman. Everything that I do, from like going to Vegas and couponing to peeping out my peephole when I hear noise. I literally said last week, I'm going to write my congressman. So
about what?
Oh, just about like road things.
Yeah. Definitely.
Because imagine that. I live in Vegas, so I can afford a car now. But I probably...
You're driving?
I am driving.
Is everyone scared?
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. Thank God there's no identification on the back of your car. I would get hate mail. For sure. I'm actually a slow driver, and sometimes that's worse than a fast driver.
Yeah. Okay,
and I get a little scattered.
Oh, yeah, you might want to get on meds. For our safety. And then you can write your congressman. Then you'll have the focus and write your congressman. Oh, jeez. Yeah, well, I mean, it's, I was going to talk about meds, but I was on them, and then I've gotten off them. But, yeah, I was trying to figure out how I'm going to get through my set without getting distracted, because of the same problem with memorizing material. Because you have to time it out, because we have certain amounts of time we got to be done with stuff. So the panic, and which only makes things worse, is when you start panicking.
Right.
Then you can't focus. And the thing about, I don't know if you've heard of Dr. Amen, but
no.
He wants you to smoke pot. No.
Oh.
Just kidding. He says that the, see, I started to get distracted because I was like, oh, I shouldn't have said that, and da-da-da. But what happens to people with ADD is that the more they try to focus on something, our executive brain, the prefrontal cortex, the activity actually goes down. So it makes it more difficult for us to focus. That's why we tend to like high stress situations, because it brings all that.
Ooh, I love high stress situations. I was a flight attendant and a comedian.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I worked in restaurants. Like, I thrive in those situations. Yeah. Anything where I need to sit at a desk and focus, I don't thrive.
Oh, God. Yeah, anything that the work is in front of you. In fact, it's funny, I was reading a thing about occupations, and it was restaurants, comedian, it might have been flight attendant. There are a bunch of them, but of like firefighters. You know, my dad is excellent in emergency, but he cannot get out of the house without losing his ass, you know. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of the same way, so...
It's just funny how everybody, like, functions in a different way. Like, my dad was brilliant. He could, like... He did all this crazy, like, auto body work and chop and drop trucks, and he built sheds, and he could build anything. Wow. He was so handy and amazing. But if you asked him to microwave popcorn, forget about it.
That's funny.
I mean, the remote control never worked, and it was always the remote control's fault, not the user, which is exactly me. I can never figure. I'm always just handing it over to Elijah, my partner. Like, here, it doesn't work. He's like, it works. You're just not doing it right. I'm like, I know how to use a remote control. I'm 42. And this is the conversation that happens every time.
So is it a patience thing? Like, you lose patience with the process?
Kind of. I do it a couple of times, and I just can't figure it out, and I get annoyed, and then I just, like, move it along with somebody else.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't fix everything. Meds definitely doesn't. I mean, I think it's it's like multiple things, like exercise and diet, and, you know, it's like, really? And I have to do that too? And
diet is the worst. I did keto, and I looked great. I lost 33 pounds after a year and a half, and then my dad died, and I was like, there's no way I can keep doing a diet right now. I want to
Yeah.
eat all the food. And then I gained back like 15 pounds.
Yeah.
It's all in my belly. You'll notice when you massage my pectorals.
I'm so sorry to hear about your dad.
Yeah, well, me too.
Yeah, it's a process. Grief.
I don't even know if I really had time. Like, I understand that it happened, but I don't know if I really understand. The worst part is my dad's urn is sitting on my desk in my office, and I was doing so many Zoom shows during the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
and I just felt bad that he had to listen to all those jokes over and over and over. I'm like, sorry, Dad. One show I actually took his urn and I covered it, like if I was covering his ears. I'm like, don't listen to this part.
Oh, that's adorable. Oh, that's tough. I'm sure he's super proud of you.
Yeah, you know what, another interesting thing, because I never really tried to talk, like, politics to anybody, really. Like, you all can have your own opinion or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, my dad died of COVID, and, I don't really know his politics. I looked at his Facebook wall sometimes and rolled my eyes. But here's the crazy thing. He died from COVID, and 2 hours after he was pronounced dead, an anti-Nancy Pelosi meme showed up on his wall that he posted. I'm like, how is my dad MAGA-ing from the dead?
Oh,
like,
my.
what is happening? How, like, he's been dead, and suddenly there's this, like, yeah, it's like he's MAGA-ing. I mean, honestly, I wish I could have been a MAGA person, just so I could have a hat that says FAGA for MAGA, but,
That's silly.
But yeah, it is what it is. I mean, I'm a person who likes rules, and I listen to rules, and I believe in science. I like protocols.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, my father caught it by going to Thanksgiving dinner when we were repeatedly urged not to do so. So, then I've been a pest about it since then. Like, his birthday was in June, and people were posting on his Facebook wall, and some lady was like, his name was also Ron, so some lady was like, happy birthday, Ron, hope you have a great day. And I replied, I think it would be greater for him if he was alive.
Oh, God. Ouch. Oh, God.
And then she said, sorry, I didn't know. And I said, don't worry, his girlfriend's family killed him.
Oh, my God.
I'm being a pest, but it's a part of grief, too.
Yeah.
It's just like I've made a lot of jokes about it, and I've done a lot of jokes about it, and then like the girlfriend's family, and that's how they can't understand that, and they think it's rude. But grief comes in many different forms, and that is the only way I know how to do things. You know, you get in a fight with a significant other, and the first thing they want to say is, everything's a joke to you. Yeah, it is. That's all I know is jokes. That's all I've got here. I have no other skills. I have very few other skills.
Was it always a coping mechanism for you?
Oh, for sure. I was always a scrappy little kid, and I would get picked on for different things. And honestly, it's not the right thing to do, but the way that I would combat it was pick on the other vulnerable people because I was always very funny.
Mm-hmm.
I was always very quick and funny. So if I could find, you know, the fat girl or this girl whose mom works at Burger King or something and I want to make fun of it, I found a way to deflect, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't the right thing to do, but you're just a kid, you know, learning, you know, how to cope and deal with things. So I figured out from very early on is that I have the power of words, and I'm very good with words. So, you know, the other thing that was sad, speaking of words, you know, my dad was hospitalized for 9 weeks. He needs to preserve a lot of his energy, but I wanted to make sure he was okay, so I would text message him all the time and just wait for him to respond back. Now, I don't know about you, but when I get a text message from someone I know, I read it in their voice. Can you imagine being sick in the hospital for 9 weeks with COVID and then waking up and you're 2 minutes awake, you're like, hi, Dad! How you doing? I'd be like, oh my God, take me now. I can't take listening to this voice while I'm so sick and I'm making hokey jokes about hospital food, you know? I mean, I don't know. I just was trying to be a good son.
It sounds like you were. That's tough. Was he funny?
He actually didn't talk very much. He was very quiet until like his late 60s. Then he started talking. He died at the age of 69. Nice age. And he started talking a lot. So like when I talked to him on the phone, I was like trying to get off the phone and I couldn't. And I'm a talker. So you can only imagine suddenly how much he started talking. Yeah. But I don't know where I get my, like, I think my grandma was kooky. My aunt was super kooky.
Yeah.
And I think I get a lot of the humor from them.
Were they quick, like you? Quick-witted? Like, breakneck?
I don't know if because when I don't know if they were as quick in terms of the way I think that I'm quick, like on stage and coming up with these comebacks and stuff like that. But they were very funny and very unique. I mean, my aunt was like I remember one part, my aunt was like a chain smoker with bad diabetes, and she decided to clown in the 80s. So she was like a chain smoking children's party clown.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and she had like a little boom box that she carried with her, but it was the 80s, so she did like bootleg children's party tapes, where she would dub over parts of the song. So there was a song on the children's like party tape that was like, "What are we having at Scotty's party?" And then you'd hear the kids sing back, "We want candy." But my aunt would dub it in to fit the particular child's party. Okay. So then if it was like Mikey, you'd hear, "What are we having at Mikey's party? We want candy. What are we having at Mikey's party?" And that would just go on.
That is so funny.
She got fired from her job for popping a balloon animal with a cigarette.
God. Sounds like a sitcom character, huh?
Raspy the Clown.
Oh my God. That's wild. So you're good at voices. You did one impression when we came in. I was like, oh my God, Ron.
I did an impression?
I think it was pectorals, but...
Pectorals.
Yeah, that guy. But I mean, I love it when people do impressions, even if it's an impression of an impression, you know?
Oh, well, I can't do accents. That's one thing, which is so funny, trying to get me to do accent. I'm so terrible. But I'm pretty good at, like, taking a real human being and finding their, like, cadence, their motions, their, like, what they do, and copying that. Or just making up random voices. Because even my natural voice, people are like, "You should do cartoons." And that's not typically very flattering when people are like, something like, "You should be a model. You should be in the movies. You should be a cartoon character."
Carlos Alazraqui is a great stand-up. He makes his living doing tons of cartoons.
Oh, he does?
Mm-hmm. Tons.
I mean, I don't know. I guess I can have a cartoon voice. That would be kind of crazy, right?
Do you walk around and talk to yourself?
All the fucking time.
In voices?
In everything. Like, I'm either working on my comedy, talking in voices. I do all the time. And I'll tell you, after 20 years of living in San Francisco, it keeps the homeless away.
Did you write that down?
No.
Well, it's being recorded, so you can go watch this if you want.
I do talk to myself all the time, and Elijah says that I have full-on conversations in the shower.
Oh, wow. Well,
which would be great if we had a window in our bathroom. Like, wouldn't that be great? Like, well, he's so used to me, like, talking to myself, so I could just sneak someone in the window and be like,
that's a weird thought. I did not think of someone coming through the window. But that would be a good gag.
That would be a good gag. I mean,
just get the cameras rolling.
I'm good at gagging. Wait, what?
Ayo. You do have a great laugh, though.
Oh, people tell me that all the time. I never even, like, thought about my laugh. It's just how I know how to laugh.
You're generous with your laugh, and that's one thing a lot of comics are so in their own heads about. They're just not in the moment because they're thinking. In fact, Jessica, my fabulous friend and assistant, we're talking about Billy on the Street.
Oh, yeah, I love Billy on the Street.
Oh, my God. Which you kind of have a lot of the same characteristics, I think, with just being able to, he walks the line, he says the truth, though, and I think he's kind-hearted, actually.
Yeah, he is kind-hearted and loud.
Yeah, and very loud.
Which is me.
But just, like, never the same joke twice. And, but we were talking about how some the actors that were guests on that show just totally disappointed because you could tell they were in their heads, and like you have people who don't want to work with animals or kids because of that very reason. It's going to make them look stiff.
Well, I can't. I don't mind anything stiff being around me usually, but
as soon as I said stiff, he's going to pick it up and run with it.
But what was I going to say about that? Is that I worked the opposite way. I tried acting in college. I got kicked out of a Tennessee Williams play because they said my southern accent sounded like Indian, like an Indian. So I got kicked out, and I can't take other people's words and translate them into acting or art or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I can think on my feet. I can improvise very well. I love being in the moment. I'm really good at being in the moment. And I'll tell you, I am such a scattered brain. And I going back to like those symptoms of ADD or whatever, like I lose everything. I start a million tasks and never finish them. I just kind of get confused and forget about so many things. Yeah. But I am so present on stage. Yeah. It's the place that I'm most comfortable, most at home, where everything's just firing, and I'm so like hyper, like I'm aware of just everything, and I'm able to actually filter the thoughts while I'm on stage.
In a microsecond type thing. They're just flinging, and you're just like, that one, no, this one.
Yeah, I'm able to like and organize and like come back. I'm able to do that, but I'm not able to do that in everyday, life. Like you can probably see my tattered, scattered notebook over there, and that's just part of it.
Yeah. Like, well, I mean, it is a gift, but it also makes it really hard to live in this earth plane.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think the more you can find ways that just, you can feel that zone and hyper focus, right? Like in the right, I mean, I don't know how was writing for Joan Rivers?
That was very interesting because I could either fire off so many items, like boom, 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 or sit and stare at something for hours upon hours. I wouldn't go to sleep for 2 nights in a row, usually, when you're on the deadline to write. But that's the brilliant thing about my partner, is that he's not a comedian, and he's not a writer, but he's very funny, and he sees things in a much different way than I do. And I could be sitting there all night staring at something, and he'd wake up and I'd be like, look at this, and he'd fire off 3 things that I never even thought of. But here's a good example of the way my brain works. 2 good examples. One that I think is more common is that when I was a child, my mom, I was a straight A student, but my mom got called in and they're like, well, he's cheating. And she's like, how's he cheating? And they're like, well, he got 100 on the math test, but he didn't show any of the work. And my response was, well, if I know the answers, why do I need to show the work? Yeah. So they made me take a whole new test without showing the work in front of them, and I also got 100. Because I can't show the work in math. Like, I do it completely differently in my brain than there. But then this is another thing. So if you have, say, like, Jessica, hi, your assistant back there, like, you were going to say, like, tell me that I have, like, something on my face, right? So most people would go to, like, mirror you, apparently, which I never understood. So whenever my boyfriend's like, hey, you got something here, right? And he points to my right cheek. I go to my right cheek, and I do. He goes, other side. I go, well, you point it to your right cheek.
So you can reverse
Why would I go to my left cheek? You point it to your right, I would go to my right. He goes, well, it's a mirror. And I'm like, I don't understand that. If you're pointing to the right, I'm going to go to my right. Why would I go to my left?
Wow, that's, one step ahead.
And and this happens with everybody. Anytime somebody wants to do something like that, I do it. And they're like, why are you doing it that way? I told you. I'm like, no, you point it to your left, I'm going to the left. But on the same hand, watch me reach a door that says push or pull. It takes me like 3 minutes to figure it out. Push, I go to pull. Pull, I go to push. My brain reverses. One time I went kayaking or canoeing or whatever. You were in a boat and you were on the water and it was annoying and there were mosquitoes around. And the person in the front kept telling me row forward. So I would do it in the way my mind did forward, and then we kept rowing in the trees. And he goes, "You're not listening to me." I said, "Forward, and I'm doing it forward." Well, I said, "If you want me to go forward, say backwards then," because my mind is processing it as that. And then it got better, and then I just gave up, and I sat in the middle of the boat and ate Cheez-Its while somebody else came and took over because I couldn't. So yeah, my
mind. Was
mind.
the beginning of your eating disorder?
No. My mind is like completely like.
Interesting.
I go in a different.
Well, a lot of people with ADD feel really it affects the self-esteem, because it's just different, and so it's just you're either gonna get, when you get picked on, then you turn it around and pick on people, but I think once you kind of know that, it's just I have a unique processing, and there's not anything wrong with me, I just have to figure out how to work with it. But I've been frustrated with my own for a long time. I just feel like I should be further along and blah, 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 and whatever. It is what it is.
It's so easy to get frustrated with. And you just kind of, I don't know, like I found my way. Like things just started clicking for me on stage. But it's all like on stage. Some people are brilliant off stage. Some people could rattle off 300 jokes and put them on Twitter and everything's brilliant. And then they get on stage and they fall apart.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. It is just like a completely different, process for everybody, and it's crazy the way our brains, they're all like kind of configured the same way, yet we work so differently.
Yeah, it's interesting, huh? Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's good that you're just capturing your sets and going, because I remember at Harvey's, I'm like, did you write that down? Did you write that down? And it was like, and it was like, no, it's going to be gone. But
I know, there's still so many things that do, like, disappear out of my mind. I think them and I can't get near a phone or something to write it down, and
if it's not fast enough, like, that's what, when I even try to tell Siri, it takes 3 seconds, 4 seconds for it to load up. Like, that to me is too long. I'm already frustrated.
Oh my god, I got so frustrated with Siri that I wound up shutting her off. I love having that power. But then I spent like 15 minutes in the car the other day going, "Hey Siri," and then getting pissed off. I'm like, "Bitch, listen to me!"
Oh, shit.
I felt so straight. I just yelling at this fictitious female in the phone, like, just...
She gets yelled at a lot by everyone.
Yeah.
But it's just frustrating because it's inconsistent. I think that's what it's like. If we just knew that if she was always there for us and accurate versus sometimes she does this and sometimes she does that.
Well, we get so accustomed to these things, and we're like, it wasn't that long ago that we had rotary phones, So it's like, this is a big step.
Did you have a rotary phone? No, I did not. She comes from a high-tech household, so I think they had it a couple years before.
I spent a lot of time with my grandma, and so I spent a lot of time with that rotary phone, and I, for one, love the rotary phone. Well, it also keeps me engaged. Like, I have a task. I love tasks. If you give me a task and spell out what needs to be done, I'm perfect. But if you give me this open-ended thing, like, if Elijah says go to the grocery store and I don't have a specific list, I'm there for 3 hours for 2 items and I get highly irritated.
Yeah.
But if it's like, get this, get this, get this, get that, boom.
Yeah.
In and out. I love a task. They're like very specific sets of directions, like spelled out for me. I can't operate.
And then you can hyper-focus.
Yeah, I can't. If it's ambiguous, I can't.
Your room's fairly neat for an ADD person, though.
Oh, well, we're in a hotel room and I think it's kind of gross, so I try to take little space up as possible.
Yeah.
I also I cleaned up a little bit before you came in. I put the ironing board away and I cleaned up some of the coffee mugs, but I'm not the neat one for sure. I've got like single batch. I got the bachelor life in me.
The what? Bachelor life? Oh.
Yeah,
like... You said the bat short, and I'm like, I don't know.
Well, like, so my boyfriend has, like, he folds everything nice and neat. Everything has a nice space. I take it off, put it on the ground. I pick it up 2 days later, sniff it.
Yeah.
Not that bad, put it on.
Yeah.
That's me.
I know.
I've got a lot of inner dude in me that doesn't come out on the outside. Like, I'm totally, like, Barry White on the inside and Betty White on the outside. Like, that's me.
Have you said that before?
Actually, just a few hours ago at lunch was the first time I said it, and that's the thing that I had to write down, and I did.
Okay, good. Congratulations. That's good. I like it. Well, you know what? I'm just looking at the clock because we have to get you to your show on time.
Oh, yeah.
So, any last thoughts that you would like to share with our viewing? I think you've got at least another 2 hours of podcast material in you, because we didn't even talk about comedy and advice for comics and...
I can give quick advice.
Okay, go ahead.
Don't do comedy.
Oh, God. Why?
Why not? It's like seems fun at first, and yeah, if you want to do it as a hobby, that's one thing. But actually, I'm just gonna keep milking this. I should keep going with more, just so I get longer massage. Period. We didn't even get to the pectorals. We did, and that's the other thing. He was such a weak-looking man, that guy. Yeah. When he came in, I'm like, you're not gonna be able to do anything, and that's the problem. Like, I'm a manly San Francisco man. Yes. Like all these guys are so like frail and weak-looking. Like I was like, I don't know. Let me buy you a protein shake or
some
something.
Vitamin D, yeah.
Yeah, it was just. But no, in terms of comedy, it's the ADD. I just went in 3 different topics. In 30
and I followed
seconds.
you.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, I'm fortunate that like my partner gets it, because when you start being a flight attendant, like it's not a job, it's a lifestyle, and I feel the same way about comedy. Like you really have to marry comedy, and it has to be every part of your like life, and you have to be ready and willing to go on stage at any given moment, and you have to be ready and willing to just fall flat on your face and be okay with that. And it's hard to know you have to know your value, and it's really hard business to know your value, because a lot of people make you feel like you're not valuable. And it's really interesting. And now we're in such a weird period of time, with all of the... I don't even know how to phrase it, because I don't want to say woke, because we do need to be more aware and woke of certain items. But like comedians are also afraid to approach things, and people are getting canceled left and right. Yep. But for the most part, I think the people that get canceled deserve it, I mean, we'll talk about things like that whole like Tony Hinchcliffe debacle, which I don't like really want to talk about. But the bottom line is, I think you could tackle any subject as a comedian if you find the way to do it, which is not making fun of them. Who is the victim in the joke, or who's the bad guy? A lot of times you got to bring it to you, Yep. And not them. I don't want to make fun of them. If you are going to make fun of somebody, there actually has to be a joke about it. You just can't say a slang or curse word or a racist word describing them and think that's going to be funny and everybody's going to laugh at that. Like that's not. So yeah, I already kind of forget what the question was.
Well, it was about your thoughts on comedy, but it sounds you said that we need people who are aware of things, but the woke thing. I saw a bumper sticker that said woke comedy sucks. But so what were you saying about that?
I mean, look at all the grades, from Joan Rivers to Robin Williams to George Carlin to Don Rickles. They all have their unique style. But, let's not get, too precious about everything that we can't. I even one time had somebody be like, oh, his racist Asian joke. But I'm like, I was actually talking about my 10-year relationship with my boyfriend. Who's Asian. These are the experiences, and a lot of times it's more making fun of me. I used to do a bit about how he eats sushi and how I tried to eat sushi with chopsticks to impress him. Yeah. And he definitely wasn't doing it. Everybody's like, oh, well, he could be racist. I'm like, I'm not doing hacky Asian drivers,
No, it was a personal experience.
Yeah.
That you're just reciting your own observations from it, and people can't hear that. I mean, well, maybe just hopefully it's. People can discern the difference, but...
And this is my thing. There's a couple of things that I firmly believe in, especially if you're a new comic. It's nobody... Okay. I don't like notes because I think you get, stuck on them. And I always say, okay, if you went for a job interview and you're going to, they say, tell me about yourself. You have to pull out notes to tell the interviewer about yourself. So it's the same thing. If you forget your jokes, just say something about you in your point of view. Your point of view, nobody can take away from you. And your experiences, they may be totally different, but they're so relatable, maybe on a different... I remember one time, a comic that was auditioning in front of me did all of this crazy material all over the place and then started telling jokes about transsexuals. And I'm like... Those jokes have no place in your act. They're not funny. They're offensive to a lot of people in the community in San Francisco, and I think you're better than that. And I'm like, hey, you told me that you were you said briefly in your act you were married and divorced by the time you were 21. And they were like, yeah. I'm like, talk more about that, because people may have not had that specific experience, but everybody's had a relationship that's been good, that's been bad, that they regret this part of it and whatnot. So, like, expand there. Like, so really, like, look back in your history, find your point of view. And I think I heard this on a podcast from Jackie Cation, and I think this is amazing advice. If I got it right, if it was Jackie, she said, go back and chunk up your life into 5-year increments. Even do it like from kindergarten to 4th grade, 5th grade to 8th grade, 9th grade, whatever, and figure out different moments and then start writing on those like moments there. And it's like, yeah, because I had a unique moment, but somebody certainly had something relatable, like in school, whether it was about being picked on or, you know, whatever. But yeah, so
That's great advice.
It's great advice. It's not mine. I believe it was Jackie Cation's.
Well, you, and this is another thing I want to talk to you about some other time too, but it was interesting because I think we saw the same thing happen with comics who were up from LA, was that they were trying very hard to keep a tight 7 to where it was a performance piece, sort of like every word was scripted and they weren't engaged with the audience, they didn't acknowledge where they were, they didn't change any of their material, you know, and they weren't in the moment. They weren't reacting to what was going on in the moment.
But that is also a very LA thing in the sense that I think of myself as a better 25, 30, 40-minute comic. I go down to LA where you're expected to do 3, 5, 7-minute like showcase sets, things for TV or whatever, and I don't do well in them.
No, me neither.
Now they're the reverse, because if you've started there, you've been so trained, like what's your industry this, your industry that, and they've got that, you know, down pat. But then you ask them to do longer, and sometimes it's a struggle because they don't get that amount of stage time in LA, so they don't have as much of that experience. So that's what's very interesting and unique.
Sorry, there are random fruit flies in here, and one just happened, so sorry about that.
I know! That's what they would just...
Ew.
And it's very bad for a person either with actual ADD or self-diagnosed ADD, because you start following that fly. Like, where is it? And what's it going? And don't go lay little fly babies on my, like, clothes, and then I'm always worried I'm going to take something home.
Oh, God. Oh, well, you should, because I don't want to talk about that, but... bed bugs, the new STD.
Oh gosh, so far so lucky that's never happened to me.
Oh, my building had it for 8 months.
Oh my God.
It ruined me. It really ruined me. Like the exhaustion from, I mean, you put everything you own is in Ziplocs, covered with diatomaceous earth, and this, oh God, I don't even want to talk about it and conjure up their name. Like, it was horrendous.
It's easier to just move and get
You
new
know what?
stuff, right?
By the way, this is my bed bug advice. If anyone, God forbid, you have them, is to put everything you own in a container, drop it off in Death Valley for a week, come back, because they had to heat the building up to 100, everyone's house up to 130 degrees.
Holy shit.
And they had to turn every single, and they did it twice, because they, I don't want to talk about it, but it's just,
I've never dealt with bed bugs or STDs, so hi fellas.
Wow. Hi fellas.
Yeah, I know, 42, never got one.
Wow. It's only the people who don't have them that have them. Well, congratulations. On that note, I think we're going to end on top, right? No pun intended. Unless you have other final thoughts that are zipping by right now.
No, I could wind up just, wind me up and let me go. I could just talk about things forever.
know.
So, no, this is good, but I mean, I gotta turn around so you can get my pectorals.
Oh, I was going to tell you one more thing I wanted to do in aromatherapy. So, just take a deep breath in.
What is that?
It's a big old fatty Sharpie.
Are you trying to get me high?
Yeah, because you got to do some kind of drugs.
Living on the edge.
All right, Ron, thank you so much for being my very first guest. This was awesome.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
I actually feel like I could sleep like this.
Some people have, and according to the Amazon reviews.